You never skip a workout, no days off. You push through the pain, you do the hard thing because that's who you are. However, the same thing that you are proud of is the same thing that's breaking you down and limiting your potential. The grind was never the hard part for you. It's the easy way. Hi, my name is Seth, and I used to live by that phrase, no pain, no gain. If I wasn't pushing my training to the absolute max intensity, I didn't even consider it real training. And I trained like this 5, 6 days a week, no matter what. Unless I was sick as a dog, I would go in the gym sick and do the same type of training. And I thought this was what made me disciplined and made me tough. I admire Navy SEALs who would go through Hell Week, and I love training montages like Rocky Balboa and all these fighters who would have all this hard training. I would do knuckle plyo push-ups, and I would live by this as my motto. However, after being in over a dozen car accidents and being in a disabled state, I've had to learn how to do things differently to climb up out of falling off the cliff. And after doing all that, I realized that my past training that I thought made me invincible, it actually was breaking me down and was limiting my potential. It's not what made me tough. It was actually foolish because your body only has a certain capacity it can recover from. And if you're digging yourself deeper in the ground, then you got to fill that hole before you can build on top of it and reach the peak of your performance. That's what this video is about. So right now I'm going to show you exactly why the grind is breaking you down and what true discipline really means. Right now there's a culture around suffering. The more you suffer, the more you grow, the more you gain. If you're not feeling pain, then you're not growing. Embrace the suck. No days off. Rest is for the weak. You get the point. And I used to think the same thing, and I get the appeal. However, there is a hard truth to that. And first, I'm going to say that that type of mentality might be the thing that somebody needs to hear if they're a couch potato and they're not used to getting out of their comfort zone. But when they're suffering versus an elite athlete suffering, there is a great difference between their pain threshold, how much they can actually take. The one who is used to pushing themselves, they will go to the point where they will literally stop working. Their muscles will shut off. There will be an absolute failure. And where the person who quits because they think that they've reached failure, who doesn't train, that is much sooner than what they can actually take. So for the person who is not used to that discomfort, yeah, that's a good mentality to have to help motivate them maybe. But for somebody who is used to training, that's like sprinting at the beginning of a marathon. You're never going to last. There is a time to push yourself right before the finish line, and there is a time to pace yourself because it is a long game. Same thing with if you're doing a set and 10 reps is at your absolutely failure and you start pushing yourself and go all the way to failure, every single set after that, you're going to get less and less reps. So then each additional set, when you're not able to do your full potential at 10 reps anymore, you're starting to get diminishing returns. You're getting more muscle damage, but your gains are going to be a lot less. So the same thing goes for how hard you push yourself every single day, whether you're full throttling it or not. Because your nervous system, how you feel every single day, if you're ignoring that pain, then you're going to run yourself into the ground because those are signals that your body is telling you where your recovery capacity is. And if you keep ignoring it, not only do you get numb to when you're actually going over the board, But sooner or later, your nervous system can actually become hypersensitive, like mine was, where it will crank up the pain so high because you are ignoring it that you won't be able to do simple things without excruciating pain. For example, a few years back, I used to work construction work 8 hours a day. Then I would get off work and put in a 2 hour workout where I was training with to absolute failure and beating my body up that way. And then I would spend the evening running a business, and I would only get 4 hours a night on most nights. If I got 6 hours of sleep, that would be a good night's rest. And I listened to people like Arnold who said that 6 hours of sleep, any more than that is unnecessary. And then other business coaches bragging about how much less of sleep that they got. And so I was proud of how hard I was pushing myself, regardless of all the pain signals that my body was sending me. After getting in a few car accidents, then after going through and fixing all my injuries, the problem that stuck with me was my nervous system got so hypersensitive. And I don't believe it was just for the car accidents. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And it got to the point where I couldn't even be touched by my newborn baby without getting shooting, stabbing pain throughout my entire body. It was so severe. I say this because it has taken me over a decade to get out of the disabled state that I was in and to rebuild. Something that doctors told me was impossible to do, that I would never be pain-free again. And I'm telling you this because there is a cost to the choices that you make. And if you're stop listening to your body when it's telling you to do things, and you're listening to other people who tell you to push through the pain, then that is extremely foolish, and they're not going to have to live with the consequences. And everybody's genetics is completely different. Some people can push through and their nervous system will not tap out as fast. Other people like me, there goes into a tailspin and you have to rebuild like a baby from the ground up, relearning everything so that it doesn't hinder you anymore. Pushing myself is extremely easy, just like it's probably extremely easy for you. The hard part is holding back when you want to push harder, when you see, especially if you're working out in the public gym and you see the next guy next to you pushing up weight with high intensity, you want to do the same effort. That's how I was. Just like a NASCAR driver needs to know when they need to punch it and accelerate out of the turn, but know also when to downshift when they're coming into the next turn so they don't run off the track. And in life, it is the same way. You have a certain maximum recovery capacity, and if you push into that too far, you're not going to be ready at your highest performance the next day. You're not going to be getting stronger. You're just going to be causing more damage ongoing. If you're a professional athlete and you go into the Olympics and you are pushing yourself too hard and not rested enough, guess what? At best, you are just not going to make it at first because you're not able to perform your best. And at worst, you're actually going to injure yourself because now you're cranking up the intensity, competing at the highest level and ignoring your body signs that is telling you to hold back. And as soon as that happens, you get injured. So it is more about the long game and knowing when to push, but also knowing when to hold back. And most athletes are extremely good at pushing themselves, but that part where knowing when to hold back is the part of the struggle. And that's where you have to train smarter and not just harder. If you want no days off and actually progress as fast as you can, it's not necessarily what you think. It's about staying disciplined to the things that are going to move you forward, whether that be hard training or the next day doing light cardio or just moving your body, doing some mobility work, feeding your body what it needs, both in nutrition and in movement. And I actually have a full video that I'll link below on exactly when to push down on the throttle and when to downshift and hold back, which I'll put it in the description. However, as a hybrid athlete now, I organize and program my training, not only how to perform at my best at every single level, but realizing that you can't push yourself at the max for everything. And so you stagger your training on different days depending on what the goal of that training is. If you lower the intensity, it can actually help you recover faster. But if the intensity is off, it will actually hurt your recovery and hurt your performance. If you think about it with greater intelligence, you can create a more thought out workout program that is actually gonna help you reach your potential. Part of reaching your highest potential is not only knowing what you are strong at, but also what you are weak at. Where are your weak links? And fixing those weak links so that you become resilient to injury, become unbreakable and bulletproof. And only then can you become your strongest. You can push your body to the absolute max with the highest recoverability. I created something to help you if you're not sure where to start. It's called the Iron Body Assessment. I'll leave the link in the description. If you truly want to forge your body into an unbreakable body of iron, realize that it's not just banging yourself over and over and over again, heating up that steel and increasing the pressure without quenching it. Through the forging process is absolutely essential. After you bang it away with the hammer, is you take that steel and you dunk it in the water to cool it off. And during that process is when you make the steel harder. So remember, if you want to forge yourself into a breakable body of iron, you too need to take yourself and cool yourself off and recover from the hard training properly.